Everybody, how's it going? Welcome. It is Wednesday. Time for another episode of A Flawed Man of God. I am your host, Stuart Davis. I am a deacon at a small church just outside of Richmond, Virginia. I'm not a pastor, I'm not a biblical scholar, and I haven't been to seminary. I'm not trying to get you to join my church or donate to any special cause. What I'm here to do is talk about God, talk about Jesus, talk about the Holy Spirit, talk about the Bible, talk about Christianity, talking about a wide range of topics, uh, current events, different things that people are talking about from a Christian perspective, both within the church and without. So, if you're somebody who's interested in becoming a Christian, maybe you're feeling a tug at your conscience, maybe you're just wanting to know if there's more to life than just what your existence is here on this earth. Let me tell you, welcome to this program. Hopefully, you can get some sort of insight from me. I've been a Christian all my life, 39 years old, 39 years non-denominational Protestant. Don't subscribe to any particular doctrine or denomination. I'm just in the Word every day, trying to do it better. So, if you have any questions, have any thoughts, if you just want to follow along, give us some tidbits of experience that you've had with different things that we talk about. By all means, be part of the chat. We would love to hear from you and love to get any type of input that you've got. If you are already a Christian and you just enjoy Christian topics and conversations and whatnot, welcome as well. Glad to have you here. We have a great group of folks in the chat. We run this very similar to a Wednesday night Bible study or a Sunday school. It's just That's just the crew we got right now, and that's great. Very small, about a half dozen to a dozen people every night coming in there and talking about what we're discussing, giving their thoughts and input. So if you want to be a wallflower, that's fine. If you don't want to talk about what's going on, that's great. But highly encourage you to participate because I'm going to respond to it. They might respond to it, and just wanted you to understand it's a welcoming environment here because we're talking about Jesus. And tonight's a big one. In the Old Testament, as the Old Testament goes, this is a big one. We are going to see yet another great, great man of God fall to sinful nature. That's what we're going to see tonight. And not to take anything away from David, because David's an awesome guy, but he's a man. Noah made mistakes. Moses made mistakes. Abraham made mistakes. Jacob made mistakes. Um, these are all cornerstones of the Old Testament and the foundation of the faith that we as Christians believe in and have faith in. So this is not going to be a thing that happens that we should all just write David off afterwards, because he does. It's not a great look, as we'll find out. If you already know what's going to happen, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. But it is something that has often been conflated these days by the mostly egalitarian crowd to virtue signal, to feminism, to victim mentality, and kind of really slander the name of David in order to pursue political ends. What David does is bad enough without somebody bearing false witness against him because they want to pull something out of Scripture that isn't there. And it's just this one burns me, because David's a good dude. It's all said and done. He pays his dues. He does he does some things he shouldn't, but he pays his dues. And now we're going to see how he's going to respond. Well, we're going to leave tonight on the note of David's sin. And we'll pick up afterwards next week, because tomorrow we will not have a show, and Friday is going to be, if we have a show, it's going to be a chill chat. But we'll find out next week how he responds, and more, and how God responds first, and then how David reacts. Because we saw with Saul is Saul made a lot of mistakes, but Saul didn't do, not obeying God is a big thing. But God's got a lot of commands and a lot of things that we do that are disobedient to God. It just feels like David does something a little bit more personally worse than 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 what Saul does. Saul does, a couple of Saul. It just doesn't seem as bad. I could be wrong. I don't know some way the hierarchy of egregiousness that God puts things. It just, when you read it, you're like, that's really bad. Saul does worse things in the long run than what David will read David doing tonight. Saul's done worse things, but that was pretty much after Saul had basically, God had turned his back on Saul and washed his hands of him and said, you know what? I'm not supporting you anymore because of the way you are behaving, the way you are acting, which is not within my wishes, and just going off and doing your thing. But now we're going to have to find out how David responds, whereas Saul just kind of gave up. So he gave up trying and just said, I'm just going to do what I want. Right. So, and the people are flooding in. Chat's active tonight, guys. We got some good folks in here. Nico's first. Dresden's in here. He's Dresden usually pops in just to let us know he's there, and sometimes he'll give his thoughts on things. Nico is, if you're following along the chat, Nico is kind of hearing a lot of this stuff for the first time. So when you're going to get an honest reaction out of somebody, you'll get one out of Nico. Like just heard it and be like, whoa, the real reaction where I know where this is all going. He's kind of our control group. He's just the built-in control group, which is great. Alias is here. Texan Italian's here. Blaine's here. Welcome, everybody. Blaine says, weekly? What is this, pre-2010 TV shows? It's not weekly. It's not weekly. We probably going to have 3 episodes this week. Mr. I haven't streamed in 3 months. And has only streamed once this week so far. Just saying. I'm just saying. My voice was gone. David's not going to top Saul. There will be other kings that will top Saul on the Sinometer. But David's not going to do that. But David's going to do something where you're going to go, oh. Blaine got called out because he called me out. They didn't have the facts, didn't have the receipts. I got the receipts. You want to go look at my channel content? Blaine said I should have set up a robo voice and streamed anything. You could have gotten one of these things. I can't remember what those are called. Blaine, glad to have you back. Glad to have you streaming. And for what it's worth, for a man who has double your subscribers, which is not that much, congratulations on 200. You do a great show, and I'm sure that the subs count will continue to climb. I think you got a great presence on camera. You've got a great attitude on things, and good. Like I said, good job. Glad to have you back. And I tuned in and commented some just to give you grief because you were pixelating. You were so badly pixelating. Once you tried to show off the Gundam you bought. So again, got a great group of folks. So last night wasn't here. I was here in this room actually, but I was watching some kids of some friends of mine. They were playing with my kids, so they stayed up a little bit later. And so I was just like, no, I'm not doing the whole show thing tonight because they didn't leave until 9. I'm not putting together a late show after that. I was a little wore out, so I figured I'd give it a miss, and then stream tonight. No things, no streams tomorrow. Got a meeting with a couple of my elders. We're doing a leadership, kind of informal leadership, just dinner, and talk about kind of just the state of the church and everything. So, Nico said he missed Blaine passing 200. He talked about it on the show. Which you didn't have to look. He sounded just fine, but he looked grainy. He looked so grainy. He looked sandpaper grainy. Anyways, all right. So this might be. So I don't know how long the stream is going to be tonight, because the first chapter. I'm not going to say the first chapter is a throwaway chapter, but it's not the meat of what I've been talking about. That's going to be going on. So, but it's gonna kind of just lead into it. So let's go ahead and get in on it. Hopefully everybody's week is going well. We're halfway through it. I've been on trucks all day long, putting together some office furniture for my office, just doing some other stuff. It's just been busy. Porcupine, how's it going? So, all right. Just share screen. Who said we got the good group in tonight? Boom, boom. David defeats the Ammonites, chapter 10. In the course of time, the king of the Ammonites died, and his son Hanun succeeded him as king. David thought, I will show kindness to Hanun, son of Nahash, just as his father showed kindness to me. Now, you remember the Ammonites, when David was basically a fugitive. That's the best way. When David was a fugitive, he was hanging out with the Ammonites, and they were agreeable hosts. Now, David was killing some of these guys while he was there, and telling the king he was raiding Israel, but the Ammonites were pretty good to him. So, Figs in the chat. Whoa, Figs in the chat. Haven't seen. Look, guys, if you don't know, Fig Newton here is an original chat sub. So glad he's here. Don't see him all that much anymore, but always glad when he is here. Porcupine says, ready for January, catering kicking your butt. Yeah, well, it's going to continue. It's going to continue. All right, so king of the Ammonites died. So David goes, all right, we'll do some good diplomacy here, and do some good fellowship. So David sent a delegation to express his sympathy to Hanun concerning his father. When David's men came to the land of the Ammonites, the Ammonite commander said to Hanun, their lord, do you think David is honoring your father by sending envoys to you to express sympathy? Hasn't David sent them to you only to explore the city and spy it out and overthrow it? So Hanun seized David's envoys, shaved off half of each man's beard, cut off their garments at the buttocks, and sent them away. Okay. Humorous moment here, though, again, not intended to be humorous, though, at this point. But look, Ammonite king dies. David said, he was a good dude. for a heathen. He was nice to me. So, I'm gonna show some support. So I'm gonna send a delegation, right, to go out there and express my sympathy. So they sends those guys out. So the Israelites coming in, and the Ammonite commanders and whatnot, they look at him and go, Do you think this is legit? Because I think he's just scoping the place out. Legitimate concern, right? They're scoping this place out. They're coming for us because he probably thinks that you're a weak leader, right? They're whispering, they're doing all that stuff. So David seized his envoys, shaved off half the beard, cut the tail end of their clothes off, sent them away. What is that for humiliation? Yes. Yes, exactly. It's basically, I don't want you here. I don't want your delegation. I don't want your sympathy because I don't trust you or whatever. So when David was told about this, he sent messengers to meet the men, for they were greatly humiliated. The king said, "Stay at Jericho till your beards have grown, then come back." Oh, get some new clothes too. That probably was left unsaid. Hopefully they'd already been reclothed. When the Ammonites realized that they had become obnoxious to David, meaning they had annoyed him, because yes, maybe we shouldn't have done this. It seemed like a good idea at the time. It was funny at the time. It's a great prank. I'm going to be at Jericho for a while. They didn't say how long the beards were, Blaine. When the Ammonites realized that they had become obnoxious to David, they hired 20,000 Aramean foot soldiers from Beth Rehob and Zobah, as well as the king of Makkah with 1,000 men, and also 12,000 men from Tob. Oh, I guess I'm just a mercenary. My whole kingdom's a mercenary. What, the king of Makkah? But hey, we need to hire some bodyguards because I don't think this went as well as we thought it was. On hearing this, David sent Joab out with the entire army of fighting men. The Ammonites came out and drew up in battle formation at the entrance of their city gate, while the Arameans of Zobah and Rehob and the men of Tob and Makkah were by themselves in the open country. Joab saw that there were battle lines in front of him and behind him, so he selected some of his best troops in Israel and deployed them against the Arameans. He put the rest of the men under the command of Abishai, his brother, and deployed them against the Ammonites. Joab said, "If the Arameans are too strong for me, then you are to come to my rescue. But if the Ammonites are too strong for you, then I will come to rescue you. Be strong and let us fight bravely for our people in the cities of our God. The Lord will do what is good in his sight." Yeah, hopefully you fight bravely, much more braver than you did when you murdered that man, when you murdered Abner, like we've forgotten. Lucky he didn't lose his head over this. So a lot of it, it's been a few days since we went over that. But Joab did not lose his head over it. He was cursed by David, though. Then Joab and the troops with him advanced to fight the Arameans, and they fled before him. When the Ammonites realized that the Arameans were fleeing, they fled before Abishai and went inside the city. So Joab returned from fighting the Ammonites and came to Jerusalem. After the Arameans saw that they had been routed by Israel, they regrouped. Hadadezer had Arameans brought from beyond the Euphrates River. They went to Helam with Shobak, the commander of Hadadezer's army. Hadadezer's army leading him. I hate that name. When David was told of this, he gathered all Israel, crossed the Jordan, and went to Helam. The Arameans formed their battle lines to meet David and fought against him. But they fled before Israel, and David killed 700 of their charioteers and 40,000 of their foot soldiers. He also struck down Shobak, the commander of their army, and he died there. When all the kings who were vassals of had saw that they had been routed by Israel, they made peace with the Israelites and became subject to them. So the Arameans were afraid to help the Ammonites anymore. Boom. So that didn't work out too well. The polite thing to do when somebody sends envoys is just to accept them, or politely decline. It is not a point to humiliate them, especially if you were already worried that they were scoping the place out to attack. MR, how's it going, man? How's the law stuff going with you, man? Glad to have you here. Hadn't heard from you in a couple weeks. What was I gonna say? But yeah, I mean, if you're already worried that somebody's plotting against your kingdom, the last thing you want to do is give them a reason to attack you. And then even more and it's obviously the sensible thing. You want to defend your place. Why don't you just push for peace? No. The Sisyphus challenge, not bad, doing better this time. Thanks for asking, dude. Happy to be here. Happy to have you here. Happy to have you in this place. All right. So things going well for David. He's riding high. And then comes 2 Samuel chapter 11. David and Bathsheba. In the spring, at the time when kings go off to war, David sent Joab out with the king's men and the whole of the Israelite army. They destroyed the Ammonites and besieged Rabbah, but David remained in Jerusalem. One evening, David got up from his bed and walked around on a roof of the palace. From the roof, he saw a woman bathing. The woman was very beautiful, and David sent someone to find out about her. The man said, "She is Bathsheba, the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah the Hittite." Then David sent messengers to get her. She came to him, and he slept with her. And here it starts. David sent someone to find out, "Hey, dude, look, I got a lot of wives already, but I'm king, right? I can have lots of wives. I can afford them." That chick down there, she's pretty good looking. She's bathing. Let me go get her number. Let me slide into her DMs. And she said, and the person came out and said, yeah, her name's Bathsheba. Her dad's Eliam. She's also married to Uriah the Hittite. David said, "Okay, go get her." They do their thing. Now she was purifying herself from her monthly uncleanliness. When then she went back home, the woman conceived and sent word to David saying, "I am pregnant." Oh, alias, I finally got it. Bathsheba. Yeah, sent that text in. I'm pregnant. Uh-oh. This is going to be tough to explain. And look, you already know half the palace knows about this, if not the entire palace and half the city now. You can't keep stuff like this secret. So David sent this word to Joab, "Send me Uriah the Hittite." So go get the woman's husband. And Joab sent him to David. When Uriah came to him, David asked him how Joab was, how the soldiers were, and how the war is going. How's everything going, Uriah? You doing all right? You doing all right? I always thought that was too appropriate of a name. Maybe that's where we got the word Beth from. How's things going? How's the war going? How's everything? Then David said to Uriah, go down to your house and wash your feet. So Uriah left the palace, and a gift from the king was sent after him. But Uriah slept at the entrance to the palace with all his master's servants and did not go down to his house. Why is he not doing that? David sent, David was told Uriah did not go home. So he asked Uriah, haven't you just come from a military campaign? Why didn't you go home? Look, this is your time, right? This is your time to come home and hang out and go sleep with your wife and do that stuff to cover up for me. Uriah said to David, the ark in Israel and Judah are staying in tents, and my commander Joab and my lord's men are camped in the open country. How could I go to my house to eat and drink and make love to my wife? As surely as you live, I will do no such thing. I'm not going to comfort myself. I'm not going to indulge in comforts while the ark, while the men of Israel, the fighting men of Israel, while Joab, my commander, they're all out bivouacking out in the wilderness, away from their women. I'm not gonna go sleep in a nice, comfortable bed because I'm showing solidarity, right? Showing solidarity with my fellow operators. Then David said to him, stay here one more day, and tomorrow I will send you back. So Uriah remained in Jerusalem that day and the next. At David's invitation, he ate and drank with him. And David made him drunk. But in the evening, Uriah went out to sleep on his mat among his master's servants. He did not go home. I can't even get this guy to drink enough to go lay with his wife. I need you guys to have relations. I've made a mistake. And now the repercussions of said mistake are literally going on right now. The Nico, child support incoming. Yes. Ugh. In the morning, David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it with Uriah. In it, he wrote, put Uriah out in front where the fighting is fiercest, then withdraw from him so he will be struck down and die. David, this is everything about this is awful. This is the worst part. So and we know Joab. He's not the most honorable person, even though he's talking about it in the last he was talking about it in the last thing. So while Joab had the city under siege, he put Uriah at a place where he knew the strongest defenders were. When the men of the city came out and fought against Joab, some of the men in David's army fell. Moreover, Uriah the Hittite died. David, in essence, had him executed. Let him die a soldier's death. But Uriah is innocent, is an innocent man who David has sinned against, who his wife has sinned against. And he's being punished just because it's going to make the king look bad. This is bad, guys. And I don't need to tell you guys why. Joab sent David a full account of the battle. He instructed the messenger, when you have finished giving the king this account of the battle, the king's anger may flare up, and he may ask you, why did you get so close to the city to fight? Didn't you know they would shoot arrows from the wall? Who killed Abimelech, son of Jerubbaal? Didn't a woman drop an upper millstone on him from the wall so that he died in Thebes? Why did you get so close to the wall? If he asks you this, then say to him, moreover, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead. Ouch. Now, here's another thing. This is often not all discussed because it's kind of how many other people did David get killed? He didn't just send Uriah out there. He sent other soldiers out there. Not completely uninvolved with this. They wouldn't have been sent out there possibly if Joab wasn't trying to get Uriah killed. And so that's what I'm talking. That's what Joab's anticipating. Look, I did something strategically stupid, and it cost us a lot of lives. But Uriah the Hittite's dead. The messenger set out, and when he arrived, he told David everything Joab had sent him to say. The messenger said to David, "The men overpowered us and came out against us in the open, but we drove them back to the entrance of the city gate. Then the archers shot arrows at your servants from the wall, and some of the king's men died. Moreover, your servant Uriah the Hittite is dead." David told the messenger, "Say this to Joab. Don't let this upset you. The sword devours one as well as another. Press the attack against the city and destroy it. Say this to encourage Joab." Yeah, one stupid move after another. And then David does this, basically says, "Don't worry, you're not in trouble. Don't worry, Joab. I'm not mad at you. You did what I said." When Uriah's wife heard that her husband was dead, she mourned for him. After the time of mourning was over, David had her brought into his house, and she became his wife and bore him a son. But the thing David had done displeased the Lord. Understatement of the year. Understatement of the year. So here's the wrap up on chapter 11. David sees a woman. David asks about her. David lusts after her. He's told she's married. Doesn't care. Has her sent up. This is where the egalitarians get this stupid it was in the commandments, David. It's in the big ones, right? The ones on the stone tablets. The one, yeah. David sees this. David sends for her. David sleeps with her. What the egalitarians like to say about this is David raped Bathsheba. David was a rapist. He used his power and influence to rape her. Right? Nowhere in any legitimate translation of the Bible does it mention rape. It doesn't mention rape. In this chapter, it doesn't mention rape afterwards. What they like to do is they like to put this, it's power dynamics. No, that's right. What? I don't think I saw rape in this. Oh, yeah, and here we go. Like this. What's more likely? That the Bible doesn't say anything about rape, and David did rape Bathsheba, or Bathsheba's an attractive woman, and her man hasn't been around in a while. She's getting the attention of a man who is, by all accounts, super charismatic, well loved, good looking, and he's the king, right? All of that. So, also, what we'll see later is Bathsheba and David they get married, and they actually something very good comes out of the marriage of Bathsheba and David. Bathsheba didn't say no. Emar said, "I see seduce, I see influence." There might be seduction there. I see influence, perhaps. I mean, like I said, he's good looking, he's charismatic, he's probably turning the charm on big time. Who knows? She might be just as hard up as he is. for this. But they don't talk about how, and he goes, why would she notify a pregnancy? Well, the big thing is if she's pregnant, a lot of questions are going to get asked. And her back's going to be up against the wall. And so she might be reaching out to David like, you need to do something about this. Right? What did Bathsheba not do? Go and get an abortion, which is a whole other question. There's a whole other thing on that. But it's not mentioned once now or anywhere else in the Bible where David's right. It's adultery, pure and simple. It's sin enough on its own, right? It's David not being able to control himself. He's obviously a virile man. He's got many wives. He's got many wives. He's already had a few kids, and King takes what he wants, and he's been rolling hot for a while, victory after victory on the battlefield, and he's at home, probably a little bit bored, and decides, yep, I'm gonna do this. Bad idea. And now he's made his mistake. Funny enough, why? Right? She gets pregnant. Okay. Now what are you going to do? Oh, well, David first, I'll cover it up and then nobody will know. Almost nobody will know. Almost nobody except for the people who saw him with her late at night, maybe. All these other things. So, and people in, people in the palaces, they like to talk. They like to say a bunch of stuff. So, pretty much it's probably a terribly kept secret. But I'm going to make sure nobody knows. Hang on a second, folks. Be right back. Kids just got back from a church function, so I just said night to the daughter, and the son will be up here momentarily, so I'll pass up out there. Anyway, so all right, I'll cover it up. I'll cover it up. I've messed up. Know what I messed up, but and maybe this is because David really doesn't know how to handle these things because we really don't have him doing something like this yet. He's always been honorable in the past. He doesn't know how to handle it. What do I do? I got to cover it up. So he brings Uriah in. I'll just bring Uriah in, let him stay with her a few days, and then nobody will know the difference. Timing might be a little off. I'll just say the kid came early, right? Anyway. Uriah might end up putting 2 to 2 together, even if this cockamamie plan works. But Uriah goes, no. Uriah doesn't play into David's plan. Really, really throws a wrinkle in it. And says, even after David tries to get him drunk. And so when that doesn't work, David really does the wrong thing. He has Uriah killed. Doesn't do it he doesn't do it like Joab did to Abner. He doesn't do it outright. He doesn't execute him. He doesn't trump up charges on him. He just says, go put him in the fight and then back out. Don't support him. Let him die on the battlefield. Because that makes it better, right? But at least he marries her, I guess. At least he marries her. That's just not making another mistake, right? Um, that doesn't absolve him of any of the other things. But let's hold David accountable for what he actually did instead of, like I said, you bearing false witness against a great man of the Bible, a great man who is a man after God's own heart, to push a political narrative because you want people to better appreciate uh, buzzwords in feminism and actual leverage points and people doing the wrong thing. Look, as a culture, we should, as a Christian culture, we need to put, we need to hold people accountable for their actions. You don't need to lie. You don't need to make stuff up to illustrate that it's bad. There is already stuff in the Bible about that. But again, the power dynamics thing, that's taking away a woman's responsibility to say no as well, which the Bible tells them that they are accounted for as well. All right, sorry about that, guys. No, I'm back. No. I had to say night night to little man. So, but Nico says, yeah, they're taking a particular lens about power dynamics, and since he's king, he has power. It must be rape, which is stupid to say the least. It's assuming at best. It's nefariously accusatory of a man with no proof other than it could have happened. It's not mentioned anywhere. And the Bible doesn't pull punches when it comes to sin. Okay? If he did it, scripture would have said it. He's already a murderer and an adulterer. You can put if adding rapist into the mix isn't gonna doesn't make what he does worse. But what it does do is it checks a box off for people's political ideology. Which is so stupid. And it takes away from what's done, because then we're arguing about something that is ignorant. Just go with what it says. And stop trying to make things, insert things in the Bible that aren't there. I heard he was harsh with some of his men. Yeah, he got some of them killed. So, however, David's sinful acts are bad. They are. They're bad enough, right? And so this is where we're going to see, because right here, the thing David had done displeased the Lord. And maybe David thought that he had made good on it because he married her. He got her pregnant. He got her husband killed. And then he got her married to himself, to the royal to the king. So now she's royalty, right? Maybe that did thing. No. Nope. God's going to hold you accountable, right? Like my dad said, you can get 100 attaboys, but it's that one oh shit that'll put you in all day long. So, that's where it's at, guys. So this is where we begin the comparing and contrasting. David and Saul, both kings, both coming from humble origins, both charismatic, both well-liked, both good-looking guys. But the difference is Saul is fearful and, let's not say disrespectful, fearful and disobedient. Fearful and disobedient, where David is righteous and honorable, but they both come to a point where they have done something to displease God. Saul, we know what Saul did. How is David going to react? David hasn't been told that God's not happy with him. He should have just assumed, and maybe he does, but maybe he's thinking he's made enough, he's earned enough credit to get over it. David's done a lot of great things. Let's not get past this. David's record up to this point is outstanding. He's sitting up there on the Mount Rushmore of biblical figures with Moses and Abraham, right? If you're going to put them up there right now, in my opinion, you would have Moses, Joseph, Abraham, and David. Okay. But none of that excuses him for what he did to Uriah. None of that excuses him for what he did to God, which was disobey. And we go back to when Samuel talks to Saul. What matters to God is obedience. And why is that so important? Obedience to God is not sinning. Because sinning are not wholesome acts. We've gone through it. We've gone through the list. We've gone through Leviticus. We've heard what the rules are. We know the 10 Commandments. It's all reasonable. It's all right there. We can all read that and go, yeah, that's important. Don't kill. Don't steal. Don't worship false idols. Don't have adultery. Don't give in to jealousy. Right? Don't bear false witness. Let's go through all the other stuff, the punishments and everything. That's all there. It's all there to keep you from doing bad things. Being obedient means doing good things. Means you're doing good things. You're not doing bad things. Doing good things does not absolve you from doing bad things. Doing good things is doing what you're supposed to do. But you're going to do bad things. And let's remember this. David is a foundational person in Christianity. Okay. From David's line, Christ will be born. Right? So, he's very important. He's very important. He is a guy that God loves. And we can look at this just like we did with Moses. Now, Moses doesn't really feel as heinous as what David did. But they both disobeyed. They're both going to be punished. This is a reminder to you guys out there, because maybe you guys are like David. You're on a roll right now. You're having win after win. Look, you're swimming in W's, right? Or maybe things aren't that great for you. Maybe you've got sins and temptations that are getting in your way, and you give it in, and you're feeling like you can't get out of it, and you're worried about, like, I'm not worthy of God's love. I keep sinning. I can't stop it. And I don't know what to do. And I can't rationalize the idea that God will still love me when I'm still doing things that I know he doesn't approve of. David messed up. Even David, even Moses, even Abraham And we're going to go through and we're going to see more guys do the same thing. All of these guys, they all screwed up too. Right? That doesn't absolve you of and then their sins don't absolve you of your sins. Christ dying does. Christ's sacrifice does. But that's why he did it. Not that you could get away with it. Not that you can go, now I can do whatever I want. But the point where you can repent and you can realize that falling into sin, while it disgusts God, does not mean that your story is over, that your relationship with him is over. Look at this as a moment where you can decide to be Saul. You can decide to be David. See how this is going to turn out. And understand, right, before we start putting people on pedestals, like I'm talking David up. He's big game and everything. We don't worship David. We don't worship any of these other folks. We worship Christ because he's God, right? Don't remember when you're putting stock into people that we all fall short before the glory of God. All right. Don't think somebody's got it all, their all act together. David had his act together. And it just like that. Just like that, he screws up. And he does it big. And this is a great example as well. There's a lot that you could pull out of this chapter with all the context of David coming up into this. How one sin can beget another sin, but by the simple fact of trying to make it go away. You can't make it go away. God does that. God absolves. And at this point, Christ ain't here yet, right? David could have owned it, though. But that puts him in serious trouble. Because we can go out. Let's go back to Leviticus. Hold on. Do not have sexual relations with your neighbor's wife and defile yourself with her. There's everyone who does any of these detestable things, such persons must be cut off from their people. Keep my requirements and do not follow any of the detestable customs that were practiced before you came. Under pain of exile, yeah. He's there. The weight of that sin is serious. The weight of that sin is serious. And so he doesn't want to face the music. So he commits more sins. And this is a great example of why God says don't do this stuff in the first place. Because the act of covering it up is going to lead you into other problems, which it does to David, like it would for anybody else. How many times in time immemorial, people screw up, try to cover it up, and end up really screwing things up. We all know somewhat ourselves when we've done something like that. We all know other people when this has happened. It never works out well. And even if it did, we were talking about this in Sunday school. God knows what you did. God knows what you did. This is me because I grew up in church. I grew up with faith, and grew up with the understanding that God is all knowing, right? He knows everything. So basically, in essence, you're naked everywhere you go because God knows everything that's going. He knows you better than you know yourself. All your sins, God knows about. David should know this at this point. So you should already. I get it. But you're so in love with what you've got going on with you that you don't want to screw it up. Porcupine Mayhem. This is Porcupine in his 20s. Then I met future Mrs. Mayhem, and wow, we calmed our sinful passions and grew together in faith and separately our love with our God. Yeah. Me and my wife weren't virgins when we got married. We didn't wait till marriage. We were not virgins when we met each other. Well, take that back. I was when we met, not when we started dating. Because we were friends for a few years. All sins. Sin out. It's sex outside of marriage, right? Even when we were together, and we knew from pretty early on that it was probably going to our relationship was eventually going to lead to marriage once we started dating, because we were friends, and that was just where things seemed like they were going. But it put us in a position where I take that back. I compromised my faith in a couple of aspects, and I shouldn't. And I shouldn't have. And these are things that stay with me to this day that bother me. And they should. Absolutely should, things that I've done. I'm not going to get into it. I don't need to get into it. It's my business. Just know it happened. Your host is not a perfect man. Hasn't been a perfect guy. Have to talk. I mean, even to the point where we're not in the New Testament yet, but the unevenly yoked part, which I got called out, and I had to eventually understand. I had to eventually understand that what I did was playing with fire. As Hans Feeney told me, I was driving down the road steering with my feet, and I didn't get into an accident because my wife at the time did not believe in God. It was not until after we had a kid that she started finding her faith, which great. It works out for me. It works out great for her. She's getting salvation. I hate the angle on this. Always makes my hat look lopsided, which it is. Anyway, it worked out for us. That doesn't mean we did right, and that's what we're going to end up seeing. Things are going to, in the end, work out for Israel because of this, because of David and Bathsheba. Put it this way: God can take your sin and make something good out of it. Alias says, what's always baffled me is how the weight of the adultery sin didn't get to him then. He has the dude killed, and that didn't get to him. it took a little bit. It did. And I don't know. Maybe he's wrestling with it. Maybe he thinks again, maybe he feels like he's built up enough credit, enough goodwill with God that he could get away with this. Maybe he's just so relieved he's not going to know, the people aren't going to find out the people already know. Maybe he thinks he got out of this. And then he did, oh, well, I've made her my wife now. I mean, I got her pregnant, but at least I made her my wife. Himar, man, I've sinned. Yeah. Yeah. Whew. Oh, wait, I got to follow this up. Nico said, I wonder if I can find a good Christian girl like that in LA. Best place to start, Nico, and I'm not guaranteeing you're going to find it, but a good place to start, go to church. Go to church. Because you're going to find people who at least identify as Christian at church. Now, whether they're good, because bad people do go to church. And we're all, I mean, in the sense we're all bad, but, people who are just going for the wrong reasons or going to hide from things, that you'll have to find out. And then Alias follows up. I know you'll be able to find lots of people that identify as a girl in LA. Yeah. But, Nico, on that aspect, I can't give relationship advice on meeting people. All right. Me and my wife met online when I was doing some stupid blog stuff about when it was very early 20s. I wasn't even 20. I was 19. I was 19 at the time, writing online like a 19-year-old on a blog. And she came across it as an 18-year-old and liked what I wrote. And then we started talking as friends. And we talked about dating for a bit, but it didn't end up happening that way. But oh, it's a big look. In a week from today is 20 years since I first met my wife. First met her. Right? And hang on, let me do the math here. 15 years? 15 years since I proposed to her. Yeah, that makes sense. 15 years since I proposed to her. All right. But I didn't meet her in church. She had a little bit, she was she was more faithful when we met than when we started dating. So, but we didn't meet in church. We met online. And we were friends for a while. And I was talking to another girl when she decided she was ready for a relationship with me, and I dropped that. I ended things with that other girl like that. But I can't give you advice on meeting people. Fig, where am I going to find a girl who doesn't care about me shouting out gamer words? Depending on what the gamer word is, but maybe you could just be a gentleman. I don't know. Be the honorable dude. And a girl that you genuinely care about is going to make you want to be better for her. Right? So that's a good thing about a good relationship too. And the good thing that y'all can help hold each other accountable in your faith. But yeah, that's my thing on that, guys. I mean, if you want to find, if he's like, I don't know where to find Christian girls. I mean, best place to start is where Christians gather, right? Church isn't just guys. Church just isn't just married people. Churches where singles are. There's some single people there. So anyways. But yeah, there we go. This is now we have reached. You've heard me, Nico, especially because I always when I'm talking about the foreshadowing and I'm talking about what's going to happen and I'm being vague about it, Nico, I'm always doing that with you in mind because I know that you don't know a lot about this stuff happening. You're really in the moment for the most part. I don't know how much the other folks are, but I do. Like I said, Nico, you're my control group. But I've been building this up for a while. It's like David's going to screw up. David's going to screw up. It's going to be pretty big. It's going to be pretty big. Um, there you have it. So pretty active chat tonight, which is great. Past few weeks leading up to this week have been kind of quiet for everybody. I know the holidays are going on, and I've been doing a lot of we've been doing a lot of reading and not a lot of topics. I've had only one guest, or I've only had one guest show in a while. The so and that was I'm pretty much going to make that a run through at least until the holidays are done with. So probably starting in the new year, I'll start looking at more guests and whatnot. I haven't nagged Nick about the show that we're supposed to do together. I'm going to wait until after New Year's to talk about that. So, yeah. So guys, we're riding through Advent season with Bible readings, right? And David's a good place to be doing this. David's a good place to be doing this. So MR and Nico over there patting each other on the back. Glad you're here on this, MR. Like I said, I hadn't seen you in a while. Glad to have you here. Glad to see you in the chat. So, so everybody tonight, Nico, Dresden, Alias, Texan Italian, who just GG'd me. Good, thank you. Blaine, Porcupine, Fig, MR. I think that might be the whole cast of characters tonight. Yeah. Everybody, all you guys in the chat, everybody tuning in and just listening and haven't commented, everybody who are going to watch this on the replay, and Wild Weeb, wherever you are. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your thoughts, chat. They're always welcome. And again, like I said, when you guys chat, it makes the show better. Makes the whole experience better for everybody. And I enjoy seeing you guys' comments, your reactions, your jokes. You're giving me grief or whatever it is. It's always welcome here. So guys, be good. No stream tomorrow. So, and if I'm available Friday, which I'm planning on it, we'll have a chill stream. So start thinking of topics to talk about. So with that said, everybody, have a great night and God bless.